These days, being always available is worn like a badge of honor. We answer messages the second they arrive, clear our schedules for anyone who asks, and call it being kind, being dependable. It looks like a connection, but underneath it's often fear wearing a friendly mask. Fear of being left out, of losing relevance, of not being needed. But here's the paradox. The more we chase closeness, the further we drift from ourselves. Carl Jung believed this happens when we confuse connection with compliance, when our need to belong overpowers our need to be whole. A shift will only happen the moment you stop being so accessible. So what really happens when you stop being constantly available? Let's break it down. Part 1. The disappearing self. When you're always reachable, it's easy to start vanishing in small ways. Every "sure, I can" and "no worries" chips away at your sense of self. Somewhere along the way, that constant accessibility starts to cost you something. Piece by piece, your sense of self begins to blur. Emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. You bend, you please, you overextend, until the person who's left feels more like an echo than a whole being. We live in a world that rewards instant response. Every ping feels like an obligation. Every seen message, a test of loyalty. You start to believe your worth depends on how reachable you are. Psychologically, this creates what researchers call cognitive overload, when your brain is constantly switching tasks, reacting instead of reflecting. You stop noticing what you want because you're busy anticipating what everyone else might need. Over time, this trains your nervous system to associate stillness with danger. When things go quiet, you feel uneasy, as if silence means something's wrong. But in truth, silence is the space your mind needs to remember who you are. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But how can you become anything if every hour of your day belongs to someone else? If silence feels uncomfortable, guilt probably isn't far behind, and that's where this story really begins. Part 2. The fear behind availability. You say yes when you mean no. You apologize for resting. You feel bad for not replying fast enough even when you're exhausted. Let's be honest, most people don't stay available because they love it. They stay available because they're afraid not to be. Psychologically, it's tied to what Jung called the persona, the mask we wear to be liked, needed, or accepted. We learn early that attention equals safety, and that being wanted means we matter. So, we keep saying yes. Yes to the text. Yes to the favor. Yes to the person who only calls when they're lonely. But that yes often hides fear. The fear that if we stop giving, we'll stop being valued. That's the guilt loop, a psychological cycle rooted in what experts call the fear of social exclusion. Thousands of years ago, being excluded from your tribe meant real danger. Today, it just means a left-on-read message. But your brain still reacts like your survival depends on it. But Jung said this fear goes beyond wanting to fit in. It's spiritual. Because when you're scared to let people down, you forget how to stand by yourself. The irony, people respect you more when you have limits. Boundaries don't push people away. They teach others how to truly meet you. Part 3. The world adjusts. When you stop being constantly available, people notice. Some might pull away, others might test your silence. But gradually, everything finds a new rhythm. You realize something powerful. The world doesn't end when you rest. Deadlines still pass. People still find help elsewhere. Life continues without your constant supervision. The people meant for you don't need your constant presence. They value your essence. They reach out with intention, not habit. They listen when you speak because your words now carry weight. Jung would call this individuation in motion, the natural process of becoming whole, distinct, and self-anchored. You're not disappearing from others, you're reappearing to yourself. In this stage, the relationships that were built on neediness often fall quiet, but the ones built on mutual respect grow stronger. You start noticing that when you no longer rush to fill every silence, people start meeting you in it. And ironically, that distance, that breathing space, makes your connections deeper, not weaker. Because when you stop overextending, you make space for bonds that don't require your exhaustion to exist. Part 4. The Art of Solitude. Solitude isn't emptiness, it's the workshop of the soul. When you step back, the silence that once scared you becomes a mirror. You start hearing thoughts you've buried under noise, the ones that ask, "What do I actually want?" You remember dreams you postponed for other people's plans. You realize how much of your energy was tied to being needed. In Jung's language, this is where the self, the truest version of you, begins to speak. It doesn't shout, it is not demanding. It just whispers truths you've ignored. And it's here that something fundamental shifts. You stop performing and start existing. Solitude turns into clarity. Stillness becomes strength. Peace stops feeling like an escape and starts feeling like home. But solitude has another lesson. Once you meet your real self, you can't pretend not to know them again. And that means not everyone will stay when you change. Part 5. When people fall away. Growth always rearranges your circle. The moment you stop overextending, you start to see who was drawn to your light and who was simply attached to your availability. Some people will drift, others will protest. They might say you've become distant, cold, or selfish. And in a way, they're right. You have changed. You've shifted from needing to be liked to learning to be real. It's uncomfortable at first, the kind of discomfort that means you are finally growing roots. Because for the first time, your life isn't running on approval. It's running on authenticity. Jung wrote, "What you resist persists." When you stop resisting solitude, you stop clinging to relationships built on imbalance. But not everyone will leave. Some will notice your growth and will adjust alongside you. They'll understand that love needs breathing space, that closeness doesn't require constant presence. These are the ones who stay through many seasons of your life, growing, retreating, and returning with you. They don't fear your boundaries, they respect them, because they're finding their own too. Losing people doesn't always mean loss. Sometimes it's just life clearing room for alignment, for connections that mirror your new piece instead of your old patterns. And when that space opens, something even more powerful walks in. Clarity. Part 6. The clarity of silence. At first, silence feels sharp, a kind of quiet that forces you to notice what you've been avoiding. But soon, it turns into your greatest teacher. You start noticing tone instead of just words, patterns instead of promises, what people do instead of what they say. Your intuition, once buried under the noise, becomes a steady compass. This is what Jung called listening to the unconscious, the part of you that already knows, but speaks softly. When you stop filling every moment with distraction, that inner voice gets through. It doesn't always hand you answers, it hands you direction. And peace, as you learn, doesn't come from adding more, but from letting go of what never fits. That inner clarity shifts more than your thoughts. It reshapes your choices, who you answer, what you tolerate, and how you protect your energy. Eventually, you realize you don't have to control everything anymore. You just need to trust your stillness. Part 7. Reclaiming self-worth. Constant availability often hides low self-worth. You feel useful, so you feel valuable. But being needed isn't the same as being loved. It's easy to confuse attention with affection, or service with significance. When you're always the reliable one, the helper, the listener, the fixer, people come to depend on your steadiness. And for a while, that feels like purpose. It gives you identity. But slowly, it also makes you forget that your worth was never meant to be conditional. Jung believed true worth comes from individuation, the process of aligning with your authentic self instead of your social mask. It's the moment you realize you're not defined by how useful you are, but by how true you are. You are valuable not because of what you do for others, but because of who you are when no one's asking anything of you. This shift is subtle but life-changing. You stop chasing validation and start creating genuine connection. You stop asking, "Do they still need me?" and start asking, "Do I still feel whole here?" It's an unlearning, a slow rewiring of the belief that love must be earned. You start recognizing the difference between being chosen and being consumed. The moments you used to fill with people-pleasing now become quiet spaces for self-respect. At first, that self-respect feels foreign, almost selfish, but with time, it softens. It becomes the quiet confidence that you're allowed to exist even when you're not giving, fixing, or performing. And once you touch that sense of self-worth, boundaries stop feeling like walls. They start feeling like doors that protect your peace, doors you can open with intention, not obligation. Because once you know your worth, not everyone gets access, and that's not arrogance, that's emotional maturity. Part 8. The strength of boundaries. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're redirection. They remind the world where you end and where your sanity begins. When you say no, your nervous system relaxes. Science backs this up. Every forced yes activates the brain's stress circuits, the same ones linked to threat and anxiety. So if you've ever felt exhausted after helping everyone else, that's not a weakness. It is the way of your body to ask for balance. Jung believed boundaries were essential for individuation. Without them, you remain trapped in the roles others give you, the helper, the fixer, the reliable one. Setting limits doesn't make you hard to love. It makes your love sustainable. You show up fully when you choose to, not out of guilt or fear. And when your life finally reflects that balance, it stops feeling like survival and starts feeling like alignment. Part 9. The power of withdrawing. When you start pulling back your energy, the world reacts, and so do you. At first, it felt unnatural. You've built a life around being the one who's always there. But withdrawal isn't absence. It's awareness. You're no longer moving out of obligation. You're moving out of clarity. This is what Jung hinted at, to live from the inside out, not the outside in. To stop chasing what drains you and make room for what's meant for you. It's a quiet rebellion, one that doesn't shout or explain. You stop broadcasting your worth and start embodying it. And here's the paradox. The less you chase, the more you attract what resonates. Energy, attention, opportunities, they begin to orbit your calm, not your chaos. You stop being a background character in everyone else's life and start being the author of your own. That's not ego, that's evolution. And as that happens, your true identity surfaces. Not the people-pleaser, not the overthinker, not the rescuer, but the whole person underneath. Part 10. Becoming whole. Again, when you stop being available to everything, you become available to yourself. That's individuation, Jung's word for coming home to your own soul. It's the slow integration of all your parts, the giving, the withdrawn, the kind, the tired, into something whole. You realize that balance isn't about doing less or more, but doing what feels true. And the people who remain in your life after that? They're the ones who see your wholeness and love you for it, not for your convenience. When availability becomes a habit, life becomes a reaction. But when you learn to pause, protect, and pull back, the world doesn't fall apart. It simply rearranges itself around your peace. You don't have to disappear to find yourself. You just have to stop answering every knock on your door. If this helped you see yourself a little clearer, stay a while and watch this next video.